we first heard of the war breaking out in Kargil. I'm sure we all remember being glued to the TV screens and following the war coverage and the collective relief that we all felt when the war was won. And that war perhaps reminded all of us that in all our prosperity and economic growth as a nation, we owe a great debt of gratitude to the countless men and women of the armed forces who make innumerable sacrifices that are so that our day-to-day lives can kind of unfold without any worries, right? And today we have a special guest with us who has, of course, served in the armed forces for around 4 decades, culminating in his role as the Chief of Army Staff. Our guest today is none other than General Ved Malik, who oversaw planning, execution of Operation Vijay to successfully defeat Pakistan's attempted intrusion in the Kargil sector in 1999. He's had an illustrious career. He's highly decorated. He was awarded the Ati Vishishta Seva Medal and the Param Vishishta Seva Medal for his distinguished service. He's also written a lot of insightful columns, chapters, newspaper articles, in addition to 2 books, which were also very well received. And currently, he's an independent director with a number of multinational companies and is a frequent speaker with several institutions, corporate houses, and often shares his insights on strategic leadership and management issues. So we are deeply privileged and honored to have him with us today to share his wisdom and experiences with us. So without further ado, I'm going to request Mr. Rathi to say a few words and welcome General Malik, and then we'll hand over to General Malik to take over and walk us through the session.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pratik Mehta, partner Deloitte and Deloitte team. My dear boss, it is really a great pleasure and thrilling moment to have with us our distinguished guest for today, General Ved Prakash Malik, who do not require any introduction for any Indian citizen. General Malik, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, was the 19th Chief of the Army, Chief of the Staff, Army Staff of Indian Army from 30th September 97 to 30th September 2000. And he was the Army Chief during Kargil War, as said by Mr. Adit. I feel privileged and honored to welcome General Malik on behalf of Bank of Baroda, its 83,000 plus staff members, and on my own behalf in this program, which is organized to develop the leadership qualities of our chief managers, who are the future leaders of the bank, being the first line of executives in the bank. I mean to say, chief managers is the rank, which is the immediate rank of higher executive. The executive rank starts from chief manager level. I will not hesitate in admitting that while selecting today's guest speaker, it was me who emphasized to listen only General Malik. Usually, we listen motivational leaders, but listening a leader who has seen many crises, who has led the world's largest army in war situation, taking a decision where every countryman is looking to him, means most challenging situation, a great risk, what decision should be taken or should not be taken, because for all good and odd, the credit or discredit goes to the person only who is leading from front. But he did it, and India won the Kargil War. Sir, hats off to you. Hats off to our army and all forces for providing such proud moments all the to this country, which will always be remembered by us. I would also like to mention the situation of our country, which everybody knows. There was a time जब every day, हर दिन हम ये सुनते थे कि आज पाकिस्तान बम चला देगा, आज पाकिस्तान ये कर देगा. Every day they were threatening. But now there is a situation when पता नहीं उनके बम कहाँ हैं. वो खुद ये कहते घूम रहे हैं कि इंडिया हम पे कभी अटैक कर सकता है. This all has become, this change is on account of the leadership. And for that, there are so many leaders who have contributed for the situation. We all feel proud. And I am sure that my colleagues who have been given this opportunity will take insights from you so that they can lead the bank in the coming time in crisis. So the crisis will not be the same as the Indian forces or any army forces they face, because that is something different. But in the similar situation, when we are under pressure, we have to take a decision in the crisis, then we should learn something from you, and definitely all will be glad to listen to you in detail from your side. So I will not come in the way. Again, sir, welcome you from core of heart. And now I hand over to Mr. Adit to take this program further. Thank you. Thank you very
much. Thank you, sir. We'll hand over to General Malik now to take us through the session. Sir, the stage is yours.
Can we have the, yeah. Firstly, I must thank Mr. Rathi for very kind words. Thank you very much. And I consider it a great opportunity, a privilege really to speaking to your frontline leaders. And as you quite rightly said, they are the people who win the wars for us. Whether it is a war on the economic side or it is a war on the security side. Thank you very much, Mr. Rathi.
Thank you.
Well, these days, the world is full of surprises and unexpected challenges, not only in the security field, but in almost every field today. We have strategic challenges of wars or war-like situations as we've been facing since April last year on the India-China front. And I think every one of you knows what has been going on. That is the security challenge that we are facing today. We are also having economic challenges like the cost of petroleum going up and down, and it is affecting all of us economically, a common man as well as the government, of course. We also have often natural disasters like tsunami, floods and cyclones, earthquakes, etc., etc. And there is this new disaster that all of us, the whole world is facing since last year, again, since March or April, COVID-19. It has become a major challenge for every one of us, individually, collectively, and I would say particularly in the service sector in which you are there. COVID-19 has affected all of us, and it has become a big challenge for us. So every leader, every organization, we need to build resilience, we need to build strength, and to be able to deal with such unexpected challenges, we need to rise with resilience. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, let me start with leadership. Leadership, people have described it in so many books, all aspects of leadership. but I have very simple 5 takes on leadership. And the first one is whether you lead 5 people or 5 million, the basics and essentials of leadership, they remain the same. They don't change. I learned some of those basics when I joined the army, and they have continued with me till now, I would say. Although I've left the army, but I'm still in a position of leadership in some other areas. So that is an important aspect. The other aspect is leadership is 20% knowledge and skill and 80% your attitude. Now, a lot of people, may not understand, but it is a result of a research which has been done in Stanford University and some other places also. Every leader, as you grow up, you do not have the same kind of knowledge in all branches or in all disciplines that you have under you. But it is your attitude, the way you deal with people. You deal appropriately with people to get what you have in your mind. That becomes important. So this is an important aspect. The third in leadership, I consider character is the key to leadership. And here, when I use the word character, I'm talking of your sincerity, your honesty, your integrity, all those value systems that you learn at home or at work, those become important. That is the key to leadership. The fourth aspect I want to mention is leadership stands for hope, change, and achievements. Leaders never refuse a challenge. They accept a challenge. And challenges also become opportunities for some people, and they produce leaders. So there is a symbiotic relationship between leadership and challenges. Next slide, please. I don't believe that leaders are born. Leaders are a result of self-belief, believing in yourself, hard work, opportunity that you get as you develop your career, and also the experience and making use of the opportunity and making use of the experience. So those are the keys, really. I don't believe that leaders are born. So all of us, we can make use of our hard work, opportunity, experience, and of course, believing in ourselves. Next slide, please. Well, I'm talking of value system, character, ethics, etc. And I like to tell you what I learned as a cadet in the Indian Military Academy before I got my commission at the age of 19 and a half. And that was the safety, honor, and welfare of your country come first, always and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men you command, who are your colleagues, that comes next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety, they come last, always and every time. I think this is a great quality required of our leaders, and it is applicable not only to the armed forces. I think it is applicable to every other profession also. So practicing these ethics and values is essential amongst individuals and organizations to build trust and credibility. That, I think, is what I've seen. A lot of websites, they talk of values, but when you talk to the employees, what are the values of your organization? Many of them don't even know that. That's a pity. However, next slide, please. I'm coming to Kargil Vijay because that was Operation Vijay, because that was a big challenge, as Mr. Raki was mentioning. And broadly, I will tell you very broadly as to how we went about, winning that war. Next slide. Well, this is the area where we fought the war. I have shown the map. The purple line is line of control starting from Jammu and going up to the Batalik sector in Ladakh. And then you have the yellow line, what is called the actual ground position line in Siachen sector. This particular area we occupied in 1984, preempted Pakistan. So where we fought the war is where you see the red arrow. And the first and the foremost challenge really was, who are these people who have infiltrated? The intelligence agencies kept telling us that these are jihadis. But many of us, we saw them later on, and then we came to our conclusion that these are not jihadis. Jihadis have been coming, the mujahideen have been coming in Jammu and Kashmir for a long time, but these are behaving differently. So that was the first, I would say, the challenge. Who are these people? To know who are these people. Next, please. Next. I'm showing you some live photographs of the area where we fought the war. And you can imagine what kind of a challenge it was. Next. We can quickly go through these photographs. This is Siachen sector. This is the way we all have to work together. This is important because without teamwork, you cannot win any challenging situation. And you see how the teamwork, we literally are tied to each other. That is the kind of teamwork that we have to practice. Next. Helicopter in those heights, they carry only 1/4 of the normal load. And these are the kind of helicopters, bases that you build sometimes to be able to land and provide whatever the troops need in those areas. Next. Next. Yeah, these are live photographs of the area where we fought. This is a Tiger Hill, very famous Tiger Hill. And I would suggest if you all get an opportunity, you must go to Dras, Kargil, and Ladakh to be able to see where we fought that war. Next. So the challenges were many. First, of course, were the terrain challenges: mountain, high altitude, glaciated terrain. Intelligence failure, because enemy intentions and ground situation was not clear. People kept telling us these are jihadis, but these people who were coming or who came in, they were behaving quite differently. Then the surveillance failure, our own troops on the ground, because of winter conditions and non-availability of surveillance equipment, they were not able to tell us the truth. In fact, the first few people from the other side who came, they were Pakistani army people wearing salwar kameez, the jihadi clothes, the mujahideen clothes. That also, contributed to the fog of war, not knowing exactly what is going on there. Then we had shortages in weapons, ammunition, and equipment. And that was a big problem because those days, financially, economically, our country was not well off, and we were not able to import quite a bit of equipment. Due to nuclear tests, we had carried out this test in May 1998, and we were considered a rogue nation by most of the Western nations, particularly. And we had a total boycott with USA, UK, and many other countries. We had no defense relationship with them at all because of those tests. The other thing was that, just a few days earlier, 65 days earlier, the prime ministers of India and Pakistan, they had signed the Lahore Declaration, for which our prime minister, Mr. Vajpayee, he went all the way to Lahore. So it was a very strange kind of situation. And let me tell you that even the prime minister himself, for quite some time, could not believe that Pakistani army has dared to challenge us like this. And he kept on saying, he says, nahi, kuch dekhiye usme kuch gadbad lagti hai. And of course, later on, he also agreed with us. But this was a big challenge, for our leadership also. So the situation, as is today's management vocabulary, we have a word called VUCA. Volatile, it was uncertain, it was complex, and it was ambiguous. Those who are studying management these days, I'm sure they would come across this very famous acronym called VUCA. Next. So with these challenges, I have always believed, and I have always said to my troops that in all human endeavors, we must be prepared to face adverse situations and failures, and then display your resilience and prepare to rise with greater determination. Here was a big challenge, and we had to rise with resilience, and that is the kind of situation that countries is still facing on account of COVID-19. Next. We'll discuss the, because of COVID-19, what kind of challenges and how we are in the question answer session. But I'll continue with the challenge that we had at that time of Kargil War. Now, the cabinet was briefed, and our cabinet, they gave us this order. Mandate given to us was that India is victim of intrusion, but we will exercise restraint. India will take all measures, including military, to ensure that intruded area is vacated. But they also tied our hands, at least one hand, behind our back by saying that Indian armed forces will not cross the border or line of control. That means we were not to go across. And this was done because of the geopolitical environment that we had got into, particularly on account of the nuclear test that we had done. So there is always a sense of unpredictability in the roles and missions assigned to the armed forces. And today it's not just the armed forces, the whole country also is facing, whether it is COVID-19 or any other such challenges come our way. Next, please. Next. Now, this is something that I think many of my civilian friends may not be aware of this. You know, we learn it in the armed forces that whenever you are placed in a new situation, you first observe, understand what is going on, then you orient it and put it in the larger framework as to how it is impacting each one of us collectively, individually, and particularly in each department of us. Having observed, having orientated yourself, then you take a decision. Okay, I need to do this. And then you start acting on that. And you ask your people, okay, this is how we will go about and act on it. So this is called decision-making loop. In the army, it is generally known as OODA or OODA loop. And it is believed that if you can go faster than your competitor in any competition, if you can go faster than your competitor in taking through this, going through this decision-making loop, you will be the winner. So please remember that when you are faced in a new situation, this is the way you have to develop yourself and your further actions by going through this loop and try to beat the competitor if you have any in those areas. Next, please. Next. So my colleagues from the Navy and the Air Force, all three chiefs, we got together. We had the Chiefs of Staff Committee, and I was heading the Chiefs of Staff Committee at that time. And we worked on our own military strategy. And the strategy was we will create a strategic imbalance for Pakistan and reduce pressure on Kargil sector. Now, imbalance is a kind of a disruption that we want to disrupt whatever planning, whatever thinking was going on in Pakistani army mind. Second, threaten and maintain pressure on Pakistan throughout land, air, and sea. They were not expecting it, so we said we will do this, and that is how we will disrupt their thinking. They were not expecting that we will probably cross the line of control or international border. So we said that we will show to them that we are capable of doing it, and we'll make use of our strength. And third, if necessary, we will be prepared to escalate the situation and launch forces across the border or line of control. Now, I'm sure many of you would be asking me or want to ask me that if you were given the orders not to cross, why did you do that? And I'll tell you a story behind it. The story is that our Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee, he said this in public gathering somewhere that I have told the armed forces not to cross the border, our international border, our line of control. And I think he said it second time. When he said second time, I went and met him, and we were walking in the corridor, and I told him, I said, sir, please don't make this statement again. So he looked at me and he says, "Kyun, kya baat hai?" So I told him, I said that, look, you have given us the orders and we'll follow those orders. But in case we cannot undo what they have done in Kargil sector, then as the army chief, I will have no alternative except to cross the line of control and international border somewhere. So if I come with the request at that time, what will you say? Will you stop me? You know, he kept quiet. He looked at me, he kept quiet, and we kept walking. In the evening, Mr. Brijesh Mishra, who was the National Security Advisor then, he went to a TV channel and there he gave an interview. And there he said that we have asked the armed forces not to cross the international border, a line of control. But that holds good today. We don't know about tomorrow. Now that was the message, a good message sent to the. So therefore, sometimes you have a slight conflict of argument, or you can say in thinking, but you resolve by talking to each other. And that's what we did during our conversation, the Prime Minister and I. And of course, our part of our joint military strategy was to retain balance on the China border and any other border. Next, please. Yeah, so I'm now graphically showing it to you what we did. Red line is the enemy action, and our immediate action reaction was the blue line. But how we disrupted Pakistani thinking and how we disturbed their thinking was those blue arrows that you find all across. We positioned all our formations on the western border, and all that was done in about, I think, 450 odd train loads, which went with their, troops and ammunition, etc. And we showed to Pakistan that, look, the war will end on our terms. It will end on our terms. And it was not only the army. The Navy moved its ships, large number of ships from the Bay of Bengal into Arabian Sea. The Air Force did the same thing on the western border. So it was a collective action. And that is what made Nawaz Sharif run first to China and then to USA, asking them and begging them literally that please get us out of this situation in which we have managed to put ourselves. And not many people know that it was Pervez Musharraf himself who persuaded Nawaz Sharif to go to USA and have a meeting with President Clinton, then President Clinton, on 4th of July, which is a great holiday for the Americans because that is their Independence Day. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah, so once you have got your mission clear and you have got the goal clear, then you must convey it to everybody who's working with you, and you must reach out so that everybody understands what you have in your mind, how you want the mission to be achieved, your mission statement. And this is a quote, somebody must have noted it down during Kargil War. Whenever I went and met the troops on the front, I told them the enemy has started the fight, but it is we who will fire the last shot. The war will end only on our terms. You have to have determination yourself, and you have to inculcate that kind of determination with all colleagues in your department. Next. Now, I'll come to some important management lessons which are important to everybody in every profession. The first one is that action and implementation of your plan, that is more important than planning itself. So always remain action oriented. And I'm giving you a quote from Bhagavad Gita, which says all actions without exception culminate in knowledge. Knowledge and action both lead to supreme bliss. However, action is superior to knowledge. This is a quote from Bhagavad Gita. So never hesitate from action. Action is really making use of your knowledge, your experience, and the opportunity. And that is something which you must inculcate with everybody who's around you. And it is said the test of a policy is not how it begins, but how it ends, which means implementation becomes more important than planning. Next. Teamwork is extremely important. And when we are talking of teamwork, good leaders always invest in lifelong relationship in their teams. In the armed forces, we have those lifelong relationships, not only with each other, but even with the families. You ask any army family and they will tell you about this. Now, I'm giving you some important aspects of teamwork. First, teamwork is like an orchestra under a conductor. The leader is the conductor, and it requires good coordination and harmony. Only then you can achieve the victory. Everyone must give his or her best, and not when they are being watched. More important is on their own. These days, a large number of us, our colleagues are working from home. Some are coming to the office, the others are working from home. Wherever we are today, not only office and home, but they may be anywhere in the world. They have to work on their own, and that is what we must learn and we must inculcate. This is an extremely important part of teamwork. As team leaders, we must be very fair and we must be willing to listen to everyone. This is important. I had during the war a lieutenant colonel sitting somewhere in Batalik sector, and he managed to write a letter to me, to the army chief, which is generally not done. But he told me the situation and he wanted some extra weapons and equipment which were not there. I flew the next day and I had a big conference in Srinagar, and we made sure that everybody has got whatever weapons and equipment that are available to us. They all have a fair share. So you should be prepared to listen to everyone. Act decisively, even in fog of war. I mentioned to you the kind of the fog of war that we had when we started off this whole operation. But as a leader, you have to act decisively. And we had lack of intelligence, etc. And because of lack of intelligence, sometimes I even told my troops, I said, look, I want evidence who these people are. And in that process, if we lose one or two people, I don't mind, but I want evidence who these people are so that we don't go wrong, to be able to find out who these people are. As a leader, you must stay calm under pressure. Like a pilot in a storm, you're flying in a storm. And there is a good example that we have. In USA some years ago, I think it was 2009 or so, one of the pilot, he took off with all his passengers from the New York airfield, LaGuardia airfield. And as soon as he took off, both the engines, they stopped because the ducks went into those two engines. And he was forced to land immediately. Very coolly, he landed in the river, Hudson River. And every passenger was saved. And the coolness that he displayed, I think it is worth emulating. It is a great example even today. And last I want to mention is assemble a diverse team to get the range of perspectives. You have today men and women working with you. They have all their own perspectives. They have all their problems, challenges, etc. And you must be prepared to listen to all of them. And it's a good thing in the armed forces, because we have people, and whether there is no discrimination in gender once a boy or a girl joins the army. But we conduct ourselves in a manner that there is unity in diversity, and that becomes an additional strength. So in my teams at the highest level, I used to look for one or two devil's advocate, knowing that this person may challenge me, or he is in the habit of challenging me. I don't mind that, because out of 8 or 10, you have a couple of people who challenge you. That enables you to, convince everybody else properly that, look, this is why we need to take a decision of this nature. So a teamwork works well when a team, there is trust and there is respect for each other. And I have always believed that chamchagiri pollutes team spirit. Unfortunately, particularly in the political sector, I find there's a lot of chamchagiri these days, which needs to be avoided in our offices. Next, please. Empowerment is important, and I'm just giving a simple take. As far as the junior leaders are concerned, people who are working under you, they lead the team in the field to achieve goals as laid down by senior leaders. Whatever Mr. Rathi conveys to them that, look, this is what is to be done, then the manager, general managers of the bank, of the branches, etc., they have to achieve that goal. But the job of the senior leader is to manage an environment which facilitates their teams to achieve the given goals. My job in Army headquarters was to deal with other ministries, sometimes deal with the foreign governments, and at a macro level. And believe you me, I never interfered at the planning at the unit level or a brigade level or a division level. I let them do what they. Of course, I would go and listen to them. I would monitor what is happening. And every 6th day, I visited Kargil sector during that almost 2 months war. But I seldom interfered. In fact, I only used to ask them, is there anything that I can do for you, whatever plan that you have made? So monitoring is important, and facilitating the junior leaders to do their own work is important. Next. Next, please. Soldiers in the field win battles and wars. And I think Mr. Rathi has already said that it is the bank managers, the branches which are there, they are the ones who are really winning the wars for us. And so therefore, as senior leaders, we must never hesitate to visit where the action is, because that is the place where action is, or it is likely to be when you open a new branch, etc., or if there is any problem there. So frontline soldiers are very important. Everyone who is listening to me today, I may not be able to see your faces, but let me tell you that you are the guys, you are important people. You fight and win battles for the, whether it is army or it is business. You are the one who is bringing in revenues for your bank. So as far as senior leaders are concerned, my advice is connect and share your ideas with your teams and your clients in the field. And in the army, they say a visit to the ground is equal to 1,000 on the map. Please remember that. And this is, I'm talking to all the people, senior people who generally work from their air-conditioned offices, etc. Next, please. Next. Now I'm going to show you, all this whole teamwork and my going there, it built the morale. It motivated the people. And I'm now going to explain to you the kind of motivation that we had achieved during the war. Here is a letter written by a young officer who writes to his father on 19 June 1999, and I'll just give you some important aspects of that. And he'll say, he's writing to his father, hope this letter finds you in the best of health and spirits. Thanks for your letter and card. The father had written a card to him on 14 January of, motivating him. So he says, what, even the chief sent a letter of congratulations to the unit. It was indeed an honor for our unit to have been given such a task. His unit had won the first major objective called Tololi. And when they captured that, I sent a letter to the commanding officer asking him to convey my congratulations to all ranks, all people from his unit. So after that, this is hard work and a sound ethos does have its merit, don't you think? We now have to work harder to preserve the hopes and aspirations of our well-wishers. Please don't worry about casualties. It's a professional hazard which is beyond our control. So why worry? At least It's for a good cause. And then he is quoting Bhagavad Gita of a shlok which says that if you are doing the right work, the righteous work, then even if you die in doing that, you will go to heaven. And this is Major Acharya who quotes this to his father. No, we are not air maintained, but food is good, and we have doctor. Yes, the Prime Minister's Kargil visit was a good motivation. The Prime Minister had visited 6 days before he wrote this letter, and I was with the Prime Minister when we went past. And then he assesses. He says, "Good chap." He's calling the Prime Minister good chap. I'm quite a sight now, with an unkept beard and Vaseline cream all over my ugly face to counter the icy winds. Please tell mother that combat is an honor of a lifetime, and I would not think of anything less. What better way to serve the nation? And I'm proud to be in this unit. Take care of your health as well as mother. Don't worry and lose sleep. Tell a story a day of the Mahabharata to Charu, that's his wife, so that your grandchild imbibes good values. Jai Mata Di, yours affectionately, Bablu. Now, Charu, as I said, was wife, and she was expecting her first child. Unfortunately, we lost Major Acharya before that child was born. Today, that child is, I think, 21, 22 years old. Yeah, that was the dedication, the motivation that we had. When you have this kind of motivation amongst your colleagues, there is no way that anybody can beat you in any challenges that you face. Next, please. Next. Here is the young officer, and he wrote to his friend, and I'm not going through the whole letter, but this one line is very impressive. He says, "I don't know what will happen at the next moment, but I can assure you and all countrymen that certainly we will push back the intruders at whatever cost." 22, 23-year-old officer writing this to his close friend. You can imagine the kind of motivation, the inspiration that we had to do something because our country's honor was at stake. And that is possible. We can build that in our teams. I mean, here is the proof that we can build that kind of spirit in our teams. Next. Next, please. Here is a letter from a young soldier. We have an organization in the army, it's called Army Wives Welfare Association. And the chief's wife, army chief's wife, at that time my wife, she was the president of the Army Wives Welfare Association. They decided to send sweets to the frontline soldiers because of the challenges that they were facing. So when the sweet dabbas, they went to them, one of the soldiers, there were many of them who wrote that letter, but one letter that came to us from that, this person doesn't know who is Awa, who has sent that. But he, in his simplicity, his innocence, he writes, "My dear Awa." And then he says, "हमें आपकी भेजी हुई आवा की मिठाई मिली, हमने और हमारे सैनिक भाइयों ने आवा की मिठाई खाई, मिठाई खाते हुए हमको काफी जोश आता है कि आप इस प्रकार मिठाई भेजते रहो तो हम लाहौर तो क्या इस्लामाबाद भी पहुंच जाएंगे। आप लोग निर्भय होकर रहो, हम आपकी व अपने देश की रक्षा करेंगे। जब तक हम लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल क्रॉस नहीं करते, तब तक हम चैन की सांस नहीं लेंगे। हम उनको, ही इज टॉकिंग ऑफ पाकिस्तानी, हम उनको ऐसी सीख सिखलाएंगे कि वो उनको सपने में भी याद आएगा कि इंडिया और इंडियन आर्मी क्या चीज है। भाइयों व बहनों, तुम खुश रहो, हम तुम्हारी खुशी की बहुत कामनाएं करते हैं। एंड ही एंड्स अप विद आपका सैनिक सुनील। Now that is the spirit. I have shown you how the spirit amongst the officers and amongst the Jawan that we had. Next, please. I have mentioned again and again that you need to inspire, you need to motivate your teams all the time. there is a direct relationship between motivation, job satisfaction, job performance, and success. It is important in the team. So therefore, as a leader, you must spend face-off team with team and clients. I know of a MD in one of the companies where I'm independent director. While 1/3 earlier, now 1/3 or 1/4 of the employees, they work from home. But this gentleman, he came all the time throughout the COVID situation. He came to the office to show that, yes, he will continue to work. Now that is inspiration and motivation. And then when somebody has done a good job, you must be prompt in giving them a shabashi. That is important. And it's like a praise. Praise is like a champagne. Giving shabashi is like champagne. It should be served while it is still bubbling. Then only it affects. When I was going around and whenever I came to know that some people had done well, so I would, pass on watches to some Naiks and Havaldar who were brought to me and introduced to me for having done good work. It was all the time wanting to motivate them, wanting to inspire them. And similarly, sometime with the officers, I would go and give them a scotch bottle that, look, don't share it with anybody. This is meant for you and your colleagues, just to keep them motivated. Next slide. Well, as a leader, I also needed to be motivated. Believe you me, that I did not like to stay in South Block for too long, because there I would see a lot of long faces, people, whether they were netas or political leaders or even my colleagues sometimes. They say, oh, will we be able to do it or not do it? There were always these doubts in the mind of people. And whenever I went to the front line, there nobody ever told me, sir, it can't be done. They always told me that, yes, don't worry, we will do it. So every time I needed to boost my own morale, I would go to the front and get reassured, seeing the commitment and motivation of our youngsters there. The war was won not by me, it was won by those frontline soldiers. That is what I always keep saying that. Next slide. Next. So this is a photograph taken soon after the war. The air chief is with me. We are both all working. And behind is that Tiger Hill, which we captured on 4th of July. Next. So every team needs to rise with the resilience. We had the resilience, and we rose, and we achieved the victory. The spirit was strong of that whole organization, the Indian Army, as well as our sister armed forces. Next. Thank you very much. I'll end with this. Always lead from the front. And also remember that as managers, senior managers, it is your responsibility to make your team strong, capable of facing the VUCA, those unexpected and difficult situations in which we land up. Thank you. Jai Hind. And Aditya, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful talk. We'll be opening the floor for questions now. So if you have, if there's anything you'd like to ask General Malik, please post your questions in the Q&A tab or in the chat window, and we'll call them out on the call here, and General Malik can answer your questions.
You can switch off the PowerPoint now.
Okay. So you can post your questions either in the chat window or in the Q&A tab, and we'll read those out.
While people are thinking of their questions, Aditya, let me just again mention about the COVID that we are seeing and we are still facing, every one of us, particularly in the service sector. I think now there is a realization that we have to live with this some time to come. And while we have shown resilience, and one is very happy to see that economically, when we went into a recession and now we come out of it, those things are moving. And this is showing the resilience of our people, the whole of India, and particularly, I would say, in the service sector. And we are now getting into a new rhythm of working either from home or from the office or in a mixed kind of a thing. Now, these are new things that we are learning. So to some extent, I would say that COVID-19 has also become an opportunity. We have to first think that, yes, Jaan hai to Jahan hai, and then Jahan ko lene ke liye we have to work, and we have to find good ways and means of doing our work. It is making us, adaptable, adapting to the new situations. And that adaptability is an important aspect in our life, in every individual. It has forced us to become tech savvy. I didn't know much about the computers, but now I've started learning so much that one can easily work from home and do all the work that earlier was being done by the staff officers. And it has also made the importance of, for example, the importance of IT guys in our organization. That has become important. Everybody is realizing. So working from homes and following other pandemic norms, whether it is in the office or it is work or it is leisure, wherever you are, this has also, it requires close collaboration with each other, learning from each other all the time. And it also, I would say, improves the chemistry that we have, bonding with each other. This is a great achievement. One notices that although people are working from different locations and in different manner, and yet that bonding has to be kept. And I think the leaders, one important important leadership that is required today is to make sure that your bonding within the teams remains very good. So I thought I'll just mention some of the observations of mine during the COVID era that we are seeing currently.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for that. So we have a question very closely linked to what you just said about bonding and kind of keeping in touch with people. One of the questions is that, many a times there is a lot of communication disturbance between a leader and a team. So how does one, ensure that communication is clear, and how does one improve that?
Look, the communication is an extremely important part of leadership. Okay. And so there is no way that you cannot become a leader unless you are able to communicate yourself to the teams. So whether it is a computer or you have to take physical risk of going across and talking to people individually, collectively, you must not give up on communication. Communication is extremely important, and therefore I would say today its importance has become even more than it was earlier days, because we are all working from different locations. I know of an organization where early morning people, just to communicate with each other, the MD or the CEO, he starts with some places they have bhajans together. Some places they have yoga exercises doing together. So you find opportunities of communicating with each other. Whenever it is possible, you get people together and you are able to communicate. If there is any doubt in any employee, then employee must be encouraged to ask those questions and get clarification wherever it is required.
Great, sir. So we have a couple of questions, one from Mainak and one from Suresh Kumar, on discipline, right? So we've all heard about the fabled discipline in the armed forces. How do you instill some of that same level of discipline and commitment among team members so that we can be confident that they're following what they're supposed to do, even without direct oversight, which is particularly relevant in today's remote working scenario?
Yeah, that's right. Discipline, unfortunately, people outside, sometimes they think that discipline is standing to Savdhan, saying yes to everything and saluting, smart salute, etc., or marching. No, that is not quite right. Discipline is not that. Discipline is doing things in such a manner, in such a sequence, that you do these things almost automatically, and collectively you gain from it. Let me give you an example uh, of crossing a red light in a car. Now, if you were not to obey the red, yellow, and the green light on a crossing, you will land up in many accidents. But if you follow the direction as given by the red light and the yellow light and the green light, you do these things smoothly. You will not waste time. Similarly, standing in a queue to get into an aircraft, or standing in a queue wherever you are going, you will take lesser time to do that. So basically, discipline it facilitates work in a very sequential and easy manner so that the aim is achieved without wasting your energy. That is discipline. Punctuality is a very, very important part of discipline. Unfortunately, I find, particularly on social occasions these days, people start going very late and they think it's a sort of done thing. I don't believe that in the armed forces. And as far as our timings are concerned, today you saw your session was to start at 3:30. I was here 5 minutes before that time. And so discipline is punctuality. That I think is the most important aspect today, that we must remain punctual with whatever work that we are doing.
Great, sir. Then another couple of questions, one from Praveen and one from Satyajit, which is about, many a times things don't go according to plan, things don't work out perfectly, despite, putting all of our efforts, giving it our all, 100%, everyone has put in the long hours and all of that stuff. So how do you best deal with things that don't work out, particularly with your team? How do you keep their motivation up? How do you kind of get geared for success next time?
Your first thing I must say that, failures are part of life. Okay, it happens. Even during war, there were places where we put in an attack and they failed. We suffered casualties also. So they have to be accepted in that. But again, we come back to resilience. You have to have resilience in you, and you have to inculcate resilience in your team. When that kind of a situation happens, then you sit down together and you start working, okay, what is the other way where I can undo whatever has happened? Which I remember there was a feature in Batalic sector, and 2 battalions attacked there. We lost a number of soldiers there, but we failed to capture that. So just a hint came that why attack from here? Why not attack from the other direction? Instead of going from the western side, why not try and go from the eastern side, which was more difficult. But we went and we captured the whole feature in no time. We didn't find much opposition when we went from the eastern side. So when that kind of a situation takes place, which can take place anytime, then you sit down together, review your planning, you rework, and you find an alternative where you can get over that situation and beat that challenge that has come across.
Great, sir. There's one question here, which is, I suspect, very relevant to the chief managers, is that, when you are at a pretty senior leadership position and you have 500-600 people reporting into you, and of course, so you've had many, many more than that under you. So how do you kind of make sure that you're connecting with everyone and not be too distant as a leader, but at the same time, meet your objectives, but also make sure that you're connecting with your people, especially with large numbers?
Yeah, earlier days, we tended to depend a lot on letters, and then came emails, etc. Even now, I find a large number of people, they depend on emails. When I bhej diya email, bas ho jayega. That is not so. That I don't believe that is the thing. You have to make sure that the message that you have got has reached everybody, and therefore you have to come out of your offices. You have to meet people. You have to keep getting a feedback from them till you are satisfied that yes, everybody has got. And I gave you the example that I did not indulge in planning or doing anything myself. I never faced a bullet during Kargil War. Nobody would permit me to do that. But I went there every 6th day, and whether there were 500 people, 5,000 people, or just 50 people, I would get an opportunity and talk to them and, show my face. And that becomes important. So therefore, you have to indulge in things like this. Today, you're slightly better off because you have the audiovisual arrangements in your offices. But please, for heaven's sake, don't stop at audiovisual arrangements that you have a video conference and that is the end of it. You still need to go. You still need to go and meet the teams of people who are on your audiovisual setup. So this is an important aspect that you have to connect. You have to make a deliberate effort to connect yourself with people.
So then we have, I think, 3 or 4 questions from Gaurav Sahai, from Amit, and few others, which is probably maybe you can go into your younger days when you just joined the army. In terms of, the question is broadly around when the boss is not convinced, right? But the younger people are sure that they're correct. So what is a good way to kind of navigate that situation? And what is a good way to kind of convince the boss?
Look, I gave you an example of my talk with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister had given us an order: don't cross the line of control and don't cross the international border. And yet, when we made our strategic plan, and I told him, I said that, look, this is why we have made this plan, why we are making this plan. And when I convinced him, he kept quiet. He didn't say anything at all. So the first effort should be to sit down together. And as I said, the leader must listen to everybody. So similarly, the junior people also must listen to what the leader has in his mind. And sometimes you agree, fine. If you do not agree, at the end of it, it must be what the leader says, do it, and do it as he says. Because the final word must come from the leader, and that should be obeyed. At least in the army, we are very certain about it. And if somebody at a senior level doesn't wish to obey, or he has a problem, then he has one route open to him: resign, go, leave the team. So, just keep having certain things in your mind against the leader is not a fair thing. And similarly, for a leader not to listen to them is not a fair thing. So you get over these situations. And this is what I said. This is your attitude, learning, talking to each other, and, connecting yourself to be able to communicate with each other.
Right. There's a related question from Gaurav Sahai that he talks about: what do we do when a leader refuses to take bold decisions, right? What's a good way to kind of convince the leaders to take?
As I said earlier, if you're so unhappy that you cannot go along with that, then I suggest you leave the organization. You can't wait till he leaves the organization. You might as well do it on your own. The final word must come from the leader, and that as a team you must obey. That is at least dharma, as far as that is our dharma in the armed forces. And either you convince him or you get convinced yourself. I can give any number of examples. Even when the Prime Minister ultimately told us that, look, Nawaz Sharif had rung him up and he wants that we should now observe the ceasefire, toward the end of the war. And my initial reaction to him was, no, sir, I don't agree with it. And that we had 3 meetings after that. I consulted my people. I gave him my reasons. He gave his reason. And finally, I agreed to what he was saying. By that time, of course, we had recaptured almost 90 to 95% area. It was just a question of a few locations. But so either you convince the leader or you get convinced yourself. And if that cannot happen, I think between the senior and a junior, the junior has to leave.
Okay, got it. So we have a question from Prahlad Jha, where his question is how is such commitment instilled in the armed forces that people are um, willing to live in Siachen forever, or they're willing to lay down their lives for the cause. So of course some of it comes internally, but as an organization, how does the Indian Army kind of keep that commitment up, and how will you work?
Look, it's a ethos. It's your value system, which you start inculcating right from the person he or she starts wearing a uniform. It is your tradition. It is the pride in your organization. Anyone who doesn't have pride in the organization, he will not be able to give his or her best in that organization. So all these aspects, they have to be inculcated. And this is an important job of the HR head in your organization. The HR head can't be hiding his face from the others. He has to create such conditions that people start bonding with each other, people start taking pride in whatever they are doing, and people follow the ethos, the value system of the organization. These are important human relation traits that we must develop in every organization. Today, you find a very large number of managers. At least a few years ago, I could say that they came from um, uh, uh, HUL, Hindustan Lever, frankly. Today HUL. So because they were able to inculcate those qualities of leadership in them, and a very large number of them became MDs and others in other organizations. So as an organization, whether it is Bank of Baroda or it is Deloitte, you have to create that kind of ethos and system where every employee takes great pride in whatever he or she is doing. And that is what we do in the armed forces, frankly. I mean, you would have seen how what kind of pride we take, whether it is the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. And for us, our units, we can't afford to let down our unit. We cannot afford to let down our regiment. We cannot afford to let down our organization or our country. That is the spirit which can be inculcated in every organization.
Sure, sir. There's one question from Devidas Parve, where the question is, it is told that morals and values matter the most. So in the present scenario, particularly in your experience in banking and other such institutions, how do you see morals and values playing out, particularly for leadership roles?
You look, as I said, all organizations today, when you look at their website, they will all give you what is my objective, what is the aim, and what is the value system that we follow, etc., etc. And yet, when I talk to their employees, their people, many of them have not even read it, or many of them are not aware of it. So not being aware of it is one thing that you must make sure that they are aware of it. Secondly, service sector is an extremely important sector, whether it is the medical side or the banking side. Let's say the banking side. Today, I always say that the bank manager is like a doctor, a family doctor. If you develop that kind of relationship with that doctor, you, your family, your children, grandchildren will all go to that doctor. And they will, whenever they have any problem, they'll go to that doctor. So bank manager has to put himself or herself in that situation and develop that kind of relationship with every client that comes to them. It cannot be just special with some and not so special with others. It has to be with everyone. Now, there is a difficulty. Earlier days, you had the bank managers serving in a bank in the same branch, let's say for 4 years or 5 years. Both the bank manager as well as the client, a person like me, we felt comfortable talking to each other. Today, what I see is, firstly, bank managers are being rotated much faster than one would like to see them. That is one. So as a result, that bonding is not there with the clients. The second thing that you find is a large number of, when you go to the bank and you find the bank manager is missing, there are others who may want to help you or who help you. But where is the bank manager? The answer is, sir, he's gone to attend a conference, or he's gone for so-and-so work, or he's gone for so-and-so. So bank manager is one person, you have to let him be. If you want to communicate, please go to him and talk to him there, rather than every few days calling him to your office at the senior level. So similarly, when you go to a hotel, there is somebody who receives you. They got everything good going in that hotel. But what is not there is a smile. If the smile is not there, I can tell you that you put off that client. So you have to serve with a smile, and you have to serve with commitment. These, I believe, are the value system which we must inculcate amongst our bank managers, the branch managers particularly.
So last couple of questions. There are quite a few questions on motivation, in terms of more about self-motivation. Because especially in banking, there's a lot of constant work that is going on, constant vigilance, constant risk sensing, and there's a lot of patience required to listen to a lot of issues from all your people, all your customers, etc. And it kind of starts draining enthusiasm. So what can you share some tips on, how do you kind of keep motivation going for yourself?
I think, the teamwork comes here. The teamwork and your bonding with the leader, whoever is there, that works. Because as you said, these are frequent. In older age, people will start fighting with every person that they go to in the bank. Things of this nature, one is seeing these things happen. So then you have to, raise each other's morale. You are sitting in the next cabin, and you can, convey just a hint, a smile, and you say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't take it so seriously." Similarly, the leader. And if you find somebody has done a good job, even if it has not been appreciated, even then, I think he or she should go across and give a pat. It's not the money that matters. I don't believe in that. As I told you that I used to carry a few watches. Now, what is a watch for a soldier who's risking his life? Nothing. But the idea was to make him realize that his work has been appreciated. So a pat on somebody's shoulder, or just a good smile and saying, "Well done, good work," as soon as it has happened, that counts. So these are interpersonal relationships that you need to build in your team.
General Malik, this is our last question for the day, and I'll just take this opportunity to ask you one. Sir, as someone who has seen action at the front lines, who has seen some of the darkest days of war, I would say, how did you motivate your troops? How did you motivate yourself when the situation seemed impossible, when victory seemed something which was a far cry away? In spite of those very tough moments, how did you push yourself forward? How did you push your colleagues, your friends, your troops, and said that, look, let's push forward and let's make victory happen? We would love to hear some insight on that.
Pratik, it happens, and I think it becomes a responsibility. So today we are talking about the resilience. And as I said, resilience is required in every organization and every leader to be able to face the challenges. So I would say, as you grow up in your career and as you become senior, that resilience, it becomes a necessity. You require more resilience than anybody else. And therefore, when you go and you talk to people and you listen to them, what has happened, why it has happened, analyze the situation, and your resilience, as I said, has to be much more than anybody else. And then you tell them that, look, okay, doesn't matter. We will do a thing like this. You have to remain cool. You have to give them this thing, and I can assure you 99.9% people will follow you. That is what is happening. Secondly, never, a lot of people have asked me this very question, that you go through stress and strain during such situation. I did. There was a Toroling, I was talking to you, and we probably kept fighting on that feature for almost 6 or 7 days. Almost literally, hand to hand kind of a fight was going on. I couldn't speak about that to anybody. I didn't know what was going to be the result. So generally there was a tendency to keep quiet about it and just wait for things to happen. Keep monitoring it, but just wait for the result to come out. So you go through under those circumstances, as a leader, you must have faith in God first, to whichever God that you believe in, whichever faith that you have. Second, you must have faith in your men, people who are under you. And third, of course, you must be very close to your family, because they are the stress busters. Your spouse, your children, and these. And so all of us, after all, we are all human beings. We have these relations. But I think these are the kind of situation that you will end up, and you have to overcome those.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Aditya, back to you.
Thanks, Pratik. So before we close, Mr. Rathi, Mr. Tripathi, any questions you have for General Malik?
Oh, Aditji, but definitely in the last, I would like to express my sincere thanks to General Malik, because I was not supposed to to attend the program till last. I was supposed to go somewhere else with very important work. But the way program was started, and what apprehensions and expectations I was having as HR head, then I thought it proper to postpone my program and to listen General Malik. And really, I am very lucky to have this to have his speech till last. And really, sir, there are so many insights which you have given. If our pupils will take it in as a input for development their personality, for developing their personality, and for implementation, for the purpose of implementation in their professional life. And there are some good lessons to follow leaders, and to also leaders to listen their team. There are so many things which you have told, that is a combination of so many things, and that will definitely keep our workforce very motivated, very energetic. So I, on behalf of, on my personal behalf, again extend my sincere thanks. And I hope that we will remain in touch in the time to come also, because this is a long journey where we have to go. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Rathi.
Great. So with that, I think we can close the session. So General Malik, thank you so much for taking out the time to share your experiences and wisdom with us today. It was a great session, and we're hearing a lot of positive stuff in the comments, in the chat, and the Q&A. Like everyone is everyone is privileged and honored to kind of have you here with us. So thank you so much for taking out the time and sharing.
Sir, really, it was one of the best motivational speech which I heard. Really, it's a great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rathi. Thank you, Aditya, and thank you everyone, part of the Deloitte team, and also, of course, all the colleagues from the Bank of Baroda. Thank you very much. It was very nice being with you, and wish you all the best in whatever endeavors you have in future. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ragini, Ambika, I think we can close the session.